What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. A huge jump in intensity from Lee today. Ladies and gentlemen, Hurricane Lee is now a Category 4 hurricane with winds of 130 miles per hour. To understand how much of a jump this is, we have to go to the archive. This is the 5 a.m. advisory right here. Currently, at that point, it had winds of 80 miles per hour, a pressure of 989 millibars, and it was moving around 13 miles per hour. Hurricane force winds extend out 15 miles from the center, and TS winds extended out 90 miles from the center. So that was at 5 a.m. right there, just to give you an understanding. Then at 11 a.m., it jumped up in intensity from 80 to 105 miles per hour. The pressure went down, interestingly, just down to 983 millibars, which is pretty interesting. That's not a particularly high drop in pressure for a mid-range Category 2 hurricane. Moving at 15 miles per hour, tropical storm force winds extend out 25 miles from the center, and hurricane force winds extend out 25 miles from the center. Then TS is still at 90. Now, here we are, 130 miles per hour. The minimum central pressure is 953 millibars. In the last 6 hours, this has dropped 30 millibars. Just to understand this, on average, this is a drop of 5 millibars an hour. For those of you who do not know how significant of a drop that is, let me explain it to you in a better rate. 1 millibar per hour drop is rapid intensification. 2 millibar drop per hour is explosive intensification considered. This is dropping like a bomb at this point. We're down to 953. The pressure, it's so crazy looking at this. This information just came in. And look how much larger this system has got. Hurricane force winds extend out 30 miles from the center, and tropical storm force winds extend out 140 miles from the center. So this thing not only expanded in size, but easily in strength right there. And this is what we have. Maximum sustained winds have rapidly intensified to 130 miles per hour with higher gusts. So that's pretty crazy. And if you take a look at the structure of this is a very impressive structure. The eye is almost circular at this point, and we'll go ahead and pull it up on visible satellite. This looks like a beautiful structure right here. This looks like your textbook major hurricane out here in the main development region. But that's not all, because this is forecast to get up to Category 5 strength. And I'm not making this up. The NHC is calling for Category 5 strength in the next 12 hours. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the discussion we have right here. Lee continues to strengthen at an exponential rate. The hurricane has quickly developed a clear symmetric eye surrounded by very cold cloud tops. The intensity estimate of 115 knots is based primarily on recent ADT intensity estimates near that value. The 102 knot subjective Dvorak intensity estimates from at 18Z were constrained by Dvorak rules, but both analyses noted that the data T was higher. An Air Force reconnaissance aircraft is scheduled to investigate Lee starting around 23:30 UTC or 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time tonight, which should provide much-needed data to better evaluate the storm's intensity. Low shear, very warm sea surface temperatures, and copious moisture should allow Lee to continue to rapidly strengthen at least tonight. All 4 regional hurricane models are forecasting Lee to become a Category 5 hurricane at some point in the next day or so. In addition, the short-term rapid intensification probabilities from ships and deep tops are still very high. Internal factors like ERCs will become a factor soon, and they're not easily predictable and well in advance. Yada, yada, yada. Confidence remains high on the track for Lee with almost no change in the track. Lee should continue to move west-northwestward in the next 5 days. The ridge is forecast to gradually weaken and causing Lee to slow down. But here's what we got going on. This is the key messages right here. Here's the forecast intensities right here. Right now, it's 130 miles per hour. In the next 12 hours, it is forecast to get up to 160 miles per hour. That is a Category 5 hurricane, folks. And then the next 24 hours expected to strengthen even further to a 165 mile per hour storm. This isn't like some rogue model or anything like that anymore. This is from the National Hurricane Center themselves. 160, 155, 150, then 140. It starts gradually weakening from there. But that's a huge situation right here, because based on how quickly this is intensifying, this could be pulling a Hurricane Matthew or Hurricane Maria at this point. About 24 hours ago, we'll go ahead and show you the archive. At 5 p.m. at this point, we were only at 75 miles per hour. Now we're at 130 with a much more organized system as time continues to go on. So this is going to be a huge system, even if it does not impact any land at all. This already is a pretty huge system, and this is likely going to be breaking records, especially in the main development region. So that's our situation. We're going to go ahead and show you the track models and the intensity. Track models for the next 5 days have this continuing to move west-northwest, although interestingly, it does have it turn a little bit more to the more due west, and then before starting to make that turn, which is pretty interesting, and that actually pulls up what the latest European is going off of. Here's the 12Z European. We're going to go ahead and show you that. We're going to go ahead and go about 4 days out, and then we're going to go ahead and pull up the height anomalies. So what's going on is there's a huge ridge that's building up right here in the north, but there's also a huge ridge building up in the west, which is actually blocking the movement right here. And depending on what will happen, whether it's this ridge right here that gives way or the trough over here overtakes it, will really begin that turn right here. This trough is forecasted to be a lot stronger than it was before. Here's where we were at the 0Z, about the same. Here's where we were at the 12Z before. Yeah, it's significantly stronger than it was 24 hours ago. So the European then makes that turn. However, according to the European model, it is then forecast to speed up and potentially impact New England right here, especially making landfall in Maine. Keep in mind, this is 9 days out. We don't know if this is going to be the case or not. But that's our big situation. Also, don't forget that cold wake that Franklin left behind could potentially strengthen that ridge to the north and continue to have it pushing further to the west. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. Intensity models, half the models are having this at Category 5 strength. And the NHC has this at a Category 5 hurricane. Majority of them keep it around high-end Category 4. I'm thinking at this point it's going to go to Cat 5. My estimate at this point is it's going to peak around 165 miles per hour. At the absolute max, it could go 180, but I do not think it's going to... I'm not 100% sure if it'll get that strong. It's going to really depend on what it does in the next 24 hours. And it'll also depend on the eyeball replacement cycles that'll start to clearly take effect, because this kind of rapid intensification is not going to be sustained forever. And there's going to be those bands that start to wrap around the eye and start strengthening, becoming outer eyewalls for subsequent replacement cycle. Then pretty much the situation goes on from there. But one thing I will say about this is, if the ERC goes well for it, it's going to expand. It could expand greatly in size, and that's something we'll have to monitor too, especially if this impacts any land in the near future. So we'll have to wait and see how it goes on this front. But what's been driving this intensity? Easily the global sea temperatures, 30 plus degrees Celsius, pretty much from now all the way to the Bahamas. There are some areas of 28, 29 plus degrees Celsius, about 84 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit. According to what I am seeing right here, the waters continue to be a huge boon for this thing, and that's why it's strengthening at such a massive rate. Now we're going to go ahead and show you the ocean heat content. It entered that area of 100 to 125 OHC, and it's taking full advantage of it, ladies and gentlemen. So, yeah, in fact, it's actually gone up over the last couple of days, up to 125, 150 OHC in a lot of these areas. So that's what's really driving this system. It's actually, as soon as it moved over that huge area of OHC, boom, it started to really explosively intensify from an 80 mile per hour system to a now 130 mile per hour system. Hurricane hunters are on the way out. We'll go ahead and show you that. Aircraft recon. Actually, we have two missions that are on the way out right now. We have one heading from the Virgin Islands, and another one's actually taking off from there. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with these missions as time continues to go on and when they get there, and we get that information that we need. So that's our situation. Here's the wind shear situation. It's in the best wind shear conditions it can be. and it's going to be in the best wind shear conditions for the next 5 days or so. So that's our big situation we have right here. Satellite estimates are what supported this thing being a Cat 4, 115 knots, 130 miles per hour. So this is a pretty crazy situation that we have going on right here. Now we're going to go ahead and show you some hurricane models because a lot of them are very interesting. A lot of them get pretty strong. Here's the HMON. The system organizes, develops, and then starts strengthening, rapidly intensifies in the next 42 hours at least, according to this, down to a 934 millibar system. Yeah, basically this started where? At the 980s? Yeah, we're already down to 953 at this point. So at this point, I think this could be in the 930s by pretty much either tonight or early tomorrow morning. So that's where I'm looking at it at this point. It's intensifying at such a fast rate. Then the system kind of stops around the 920 millibar range, gets it up to a high-end Category 4 hurricane according to 12Z, undergoes an eyewall replacement cycle, and kind of meanders through the main development region and the Atlantic Basin over the next 5 days. Next one we're showing you is the HAFS A. Here's the HAFS A right here. HAFS A 12Z kind of started around 977. It's kind of at this point beating it out. This is where we're at right now. This was calling for 962. We're at 953. Excuse me. We're up to 953 at this point, and then by 10 o'clock, down to 949. It's a high-end Category 4 hurricane. And then 937, 929 by 4 a.m. tomorrow, up to 175 miles per hour from the HAFS A, up to 185 miles per hour from the 12Z, down to 23 millibars. This is a small system and continues to strengthen. This actually gets up, according to the HAFS-A, up to 190 miles per hour, 167 knots. That equates to about 190 miles per hour, which is very, very interesting and very, very scary to see. The only time we have seen a 190 millibar hurricane anywhere in the Atlantic Ocean was Hurricane Allen in 1980. So if this holds right here and it intensifies at this rate and gets up to that intensity, yeah, we're going to be getting there. Then it starts to undergo an eyewall replacement cycle, starts fluctuating in intensity. By the way, I forgot to mention the pressure gets down to 911 millibars, which is such a low pressure for these kinds of hurricanes. Starts to eyewall replacement cycle goes into effect, starts to expand in size according to HAFS A right here. It stays out in the Atlantic, but around high-end Category 4, low-end Category 5 strength. So we'll have to keep and pay attention to that. HAFS B is coming out, and this run has been absolutely shocking for you. Here's what we have going on. This is what we have in the next 24 hours. This in the next 24 hours has this rapidly intensifying to a 913 millibar system. And considering the drop it went over the last 6 hours, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw it at this point. Gets up to 172.5 knots. For those of you who do not know how strong 172.5 knots is, in fact, it gets even stronger, 175. That's 200 miles per hour, according to the HAFS B, and pressure's down to 909. So this thing is calling for a 200 millibar hurricane, which has never been seen before in the Atlantic. I don't know if it's going to get that strong or not. I'm thinking the max it could get is 180 at this point. But then again, it's intensifying at such a fast rate, anything can happen. But then it starts undergoing an eyewall replacement cycle. Things start to expand in size quite a bit. As you can see, keeps it around high-end Category 4, low-end Category 5 for the next 5 days. And that's the situation we have going on right here. We're going to close the video out right here. We're going to be live streaming starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time as hurricane hunters start entering the system and we get more data. We're also going to answer any questions you guys have for this system, so stay tuned for that. But with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.